My goals today are to challenge some of your assumptions perhaps on aging, to challenge you as you think about your work, to think about the needs of people who are aging, and to give you some examples, some small but all very impactful, of things that other communities are already doing that are tangible, important steps to help make them more age-friendly. It's exhilarating when the technology works. When I started AARP, oh, now you're going to challenge me with. Yeah. Yeah, it's fine.
Come over here. It's on the second screen, so I just need to come over here and go like this. Do you all see where it says hide? Is it this one? Hide meeting controls?
Hide floating controls.
I can't read it, so that's the thing. If you could tell me. This one? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Yes, so now you're good. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to pull that off, so. As I was saying, when I started AARP, I thought what I'd be working on is mostly issues like Social Security and Medicare. That's what people who are older really care about. I still do, and those are very important things that we work on, but my work is actually much more expansive than that, and is, again, all based on this issue of empowering people to choose how they live as they age. In 2022, AARP Nebraska did a Vital Voices survey of Nebraskans aged 45 plus and found that 84% said staying in their homes as they get older was extremely or very important to you. That was something that echoes what we heard from our panelists just a few minutes ago. So I was just telling Julie yesterday, I got asked, why does AARP work on housing issues? Well, it's necessary for people to be able to age in place. Why do we care about digital literacy? We know it's necessary for people to be able to age in place. And why do we care about financial resilience? Again, it's necessary for people to be able to age in place. Uh-oh. Yeah. I can just do that. I can do it on the screen. So here's the truth, that America, we as a nation are getting older. We are aging. There are approximately 45 million Americans age 65 or older, and by 2030, that number will reach 73 million. At that point, fully 1 in 5 Americans will be older than 65. By 2034, the United States will, for the first time ever, be a country comprised of more older adults than children. And by 2016, there will be approximately 15 million more people age 65 than people under the age of 18. That number is even higher in Nebraska. The proportion of Nebraska's population that is over 60 is growing, while the proportion that is under 60 is shrinking. The U.S. Census Bureau estimates that more than 25% of Nebraska's population will be over the age of 60 by the year 2030, an increase of 32% from 2012. The question I want to leave everyone with today is, are we connecting that desire to age in place from the previous screen with the coming demographic wave on this screen? What will that mean for our communities, and are they ready for that? To help address our current and future needs, AARP is working on something that we call livable communities. What is a livable community? We know that for people to be able to age in place and stay in their homes, they need safe, walkable streets, age-friendly housing and transportation options, access to needed services, and opportunities for residents of all ages to participate in community life. And that's the core of our AARP Livable Communities work. AARP Livable Communities supports the efforts of neighborhoods, towns, cities, and rural areas to be great places for people of all ages. Our work focuses on elected officials, city planners, architects, builders, and communities at large to start thinking about how we can better prepare for an aging population. For example, at age 55, my house might have universal design features I don't even notice. But the 75, those will be the features that allow me to age in place and stay in that home for as long as possible. I also, as a representative of AARP, feel at this point that I need to stop and say that aging is not a bad thing. Thank you. I guarantee you it's better than the alternative. Or that an older population is a drain on society. You know, that's the other sort of notion that we have. We're aging and that's somehow bad for our society. The truth is that people over 50 are a major economic driver in Nebraska, and their economic power will only grow in the coming decades. According to the Longevity Economy Outlook, Nebraska's 50-plus population creates an outsized economic impact and will drive economic growth for the next 30 years. In 2018, the 50-plus population accounted for 34% of Nebraska's population, yet contributed 39% of the state's GDP. Their activity also supported 566,000 jobs and generated $33 billion in wages and salaries. Their contribution to GDP is forecast to reach $156 billion by 2050. Here in Nebraska, AARP has focused our livable communities work mostly on housing issues. We focus on affordability, thinking beyond just senior housing solutions, and creating more housing options that fall between that large single-family home and assisted living. On the screen here is an example of a few of the things that we've worked on recently. On the top is we ran an ADU design competition last year where we challenged architects to design accessory dwelling units that had age-friendly components to it. We partnered with a bunch of local housing stakeholders and actually the city of Omaha as well. As the competition started, I was praying that we got 2 designs because we could judge 2. We ended up getting 20 really great designs. We picked 3 winners and 1 alternate. The winning design was actually an assist from the previous Megan from Massistology participated in the winning design as well. So a really good thing. We also worked with the city, and the city is creating a fast track program so that the winning designs can apply to the city to get their designs pre-approved by the city. So if people want to build these, they're able to move through that process much more quickly. On the bottom is a missing middle housing tour that we had Opticoast Design do for us in the Dundee neighborhood. Missing middle housing, for those who don't know, refers to things like duplexes, triplexes, garden apartments, housing options that are smaller, more affordable, more age-friendly that used to exist everywhere before World War II, and we sort of zoned them out of existence. Well, Dundee's an older neighborhood and has many great examples of missing middle housing. It's something that we're working to get zoning changes to make them more available throughout Omaha. And this tour allows people to see examples of this housing that exists in this neighborhood. As you walk by, you don't even notice that's a duplex. It fits within the neighborhood itself. So again, Opticoast Design. Dan Perolik is actually the founder of Opticoast Design from Columbus, Nebraska, now lives in California, and he's the person who coined the phrase missing middle housing. We also engage in a lot of state and local advocacy, federal advocacy as well, but here in Nebraska focused on state and local. The top picture is one of my favorite pictures from our lobby week that we did this year. We brought in 60 of our volunteers and met with about 75% of our senators here in Nebraska. And these ladies cornered Senator Justin Wayne from Omaha, and we were talking to him about their 2 bills, one about ADUs and one about duplexes. And they were talking to him about the importance of creating more housing options in the state. And below there is from the city council, as a part of our work with them on the ADUs, we were able to get some zoning changes earlier this year to make ADUs easier to build within a larger part of Omaha. AARP loves information. We love booklets, we love pamphlets. And so we have, got to get my notes here, 20 free publications via download or print that support our local leaders and create better housing, transportation, and public spaces. Our weekly newsletter reaches more than 100,000 local leaders. Sign up for weekly updates from AARP and all things livable by texting livable to 50757. Our goal is to empower people with information that will help them improve their communities. One of the favorite things I do is our community challenge grants. The AARP Community Challenge Grant is a program, part of our nationwide Livable Communities initiative that helps communities become great places for residents of all ages to live. The program is intended to help communities make quick-acting, immediate improvements that will jumpstart long-term progress and support residents of all ages. Since the program debuted in 2017, AARP has awarded $16.4 million through more than 1,300 grants in 900 communities. In Nebraska since 2017, we have provided 25 grants worth more than $275,000. And on the far right is a check presentation that we did to the Hastings Public Library. We bought them, I think, 15, 20 Chromebooks, and they are now using those to offer digital literacy courses for older folks that live in Hastings. In the middle is a brick from a public plaza the city of Oshkosh, Nebraska created using some funds for AARP. So they now have a public gathering space in the center of town where they have concerts and other things that they can activate throughout the year for their residents. And on the left there is a ribbon cutting for a community garden in Lincoln that we helped provide the irrigation for. And this garden is particularly important for the Karen community, the immigrant community that lives in Lincoln. So very proud to be a part of those sort of things with those grants. We'll be announcing the next round of grants here in a couple weeks. We get the money out the door in July, and they have to have the grant executed and finished by the end of the year. So again, quick acting, big impact grants. I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about the role AARP's network of age-friendly states and communities plays in helping communities become more age-friendly. The network was originally created in 2012 and now includes more than 184 communities nationwide who are dedicated to an ongoing, community-driven process to make themselves more livable and more age-friendly. A special congratulations to Lincoln, and we'll be hearing from Randy Jones here in a bit, for becoming the 846th community in January to join the network. And the picture here shows on the far right, Mayor Leary and Gaylor Baird in Lincoln when they entered the network in January. And I think the picture on the left is from March. That's the mayor of Grand Island. Grand Island was our first community to join, and this is a plaque that we gave them for finishing their first 5-year cycle as a part of the network of age-friendly states and communities. Just put it out there. What's the first thing that you think of when you hear the term age-friendly? For AARP, it's a community where elected leadership has made a commitment to actively work with residents and local advocates to make their town, city, county, or even state an age-friendly place to live. It's a commitment that they're going to make their community not only good for people who are older, but good for people of all ages. AARP Network of Age-Friendly States and Communities is one way that we can help drive that process. Again, this is a community-driven process that I hope Randy will attest when he talks a little bit about what Lincoln's doing. It's not an AARP process. It's something the community owns. It starts with assessing the needs by talking to the community, developing an action plan, implementing the plan and tracking progress, evaluating impact and creating a progress report, and then continued assessment of needs and resetting of goals. As I would say, Lincoln falls in that sort of year one part of this process now, and Grand Island's at year 5. What's great is Grand Island is circling back around and going to do the process again from the very beginning to the end. So appreciate their commitment to that. So as AARP has looked at, and a lot of these are going to be themes that I heard in the previous panels of things that they highlighted, and I was grateful to hear that the things that they thought were important are the same things that AARP thinks are important in an age-friendly community. So I'm going to talk about each of these. These are 8 domains of livability. As a community is going through their age-friendly process, we usually encourage them to pick 3 or 4 of these domains to focus on as they go through the process. I'm going to talk about each one of these domains and hopefully give you a real-life example of something that a community that's gone through the age-friendly process has done to help further that particular domain. The first is outdoor spaces and buildings. People need public spaces to gather, indoors and out. Green spaces, seating, and accessible buildings with elevators, zero-step entries, and staircases with railings that can be used and enjoyed by people of all ages. Nearly 3/4 of adults say that it is important to have safe, well-lit parks that give residents places to gather and interact with friends. The example that I think best describes this is Carlsbad, New Mexico. What they did is they did a survey of all of their parks as a part of their age-friendly process, and they wanted to make sure that their parks were age-friendly. And what they found is their parks, by and large, were handicap accessible, which was great. But what they found out, they weren't handicap usable. So people who had a disability could access the parks, but there was nothing in the parks in which they could do themselves or use. So what they did was created a park where the equipment, including the playground equipment, is handicap usable. And through this work, they've created an accessible, usable space where parents and grandparents can take children and enjoy that outdoor space that we talk about within the domain. The next domain is housing. We're looking to create options so older adults are able to stay in their homes for as long as possible. For some, aging in place may actually involve downsizing out of that large single-family home where they've lived. In fact, 57% of people 50 plus say they would consider leaving their current home to find them one that would better enable them to age independently. The problem, as I discussed a few minutes ago, is that many places there aren't any options between that large single-family home and assisted living. Whenever I talk about this, I always bring up my mom, and she hates every time that I bring up my mom, especially in the press, to sort of talk about this point. So please don't tell her that I'm doing it again today. My mom is widowed. She lives in Holdridge, Nebraska, in the south central part of the state, a town of about 5,000 people. She's still in the large 5-bedroom house where she helped raise us. She stays in the house. We are terrified to death that we're going to find her at the bottom of the stairs one day. She's in one of those split levels that the previous panel talked about. I think I could convince her to move to a smaller house that was more age-friendly if something like that existed in the city of Holdridge. It really doesn't exist. There's nothing except that large family or assisted living, and she's not ready to go to assisted living. But if there was a duplex or a triplex or a garden apartment that would meet her needs, she would be open to that. And as we discussed earlier, guess what happens? Holdridge talks a lot about not having enough workforce housing for younger people. If they had and built the housing that would help people age in place, my mom would open up that large single-family home for a younger working couple to be able to take on. So I often tell these communities that you don't need to go out and build more single-family homes. You need to go out and build duplexes and encourage older people to downsize and move into those and open up those single-family homes for you. For a very long time, my talking points, and I got about 10 of them that I keep pulling out on housing issues, have talked about age-friendly housing. More and more, I'm switching my vernacular to talk about age-ready housing. What is an age-ready home? It is defined as one that has one step-free entryway at least, a bedroom and a full bath on the main floor, and a bathroom with at least one accessibility feature. According to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, only 10% of homes in America meet this definition of age-ready. There is a major disconnect with that stat and the coming demographic wave I talked about before, and people's desire to age in place and stay in their homes. The example I want to talk about, a community that's addressing this, is Grand Island here in Nebraska. They knew that they had an affordable housing problem, and so what they did is, through their age-friendly process, they created a Grand Island Area Economic Development Corporation that was awarded $1 million grant, and they found $1 million matching funds for that. And they created a revolving loan fund that allows builders to apply for an 18-month zero-interest loan as long as they commit to building affordable housing. That has, they have awarded the first set of grants to 3 builders who built 17 affordable homes in Grand Island. In a community like Grand Island, 17 homes means a lot, and that project then continues forward. Next is transportation. Driving shouldn't be the only way to get around. This includes looking at sidewalks, bike lanes, public transit, shuttles, safe and affordable modes of private and public transportation. Again, from our Vital Voices survey, 83% of our respondents said getting to the places they need to go independently was extremely or very important to them. Moving easily and safely from one place to another vastly improves the quality of life. Transportation options that connect people to social activities, jobs, and medical care offer convenient, healthy, accessible, and low-cost alternatives to driving and are paramount to supporting all community members. My example for the work in here is Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh looked at their public transit system, particularly buses, which a lot of older folks relied upon. What they ended up doing was doing a survey of their older riders and said, what was your experience on the buses? And what are the things that we could do and the bus drivers could do to make your experience better? And they provided a lot of answers, as older folks love to do when they're asked their opinion of things. And there were simple things like, I really love it when the bus driver knows my name. I love it when the bus makes sure where it stops is a place that I'm able to get onto the sidewalk when I get off. So what Pittsburgh did is took all of these suggestions, posted them in the break room for the bus drivers to see so that they could understand the things that their older drivers wanted and needed. What they also did is took these suggestions and created a new training course for brand new drivers to acclimate them to the wants and needs of older riders as well. Next domain is social participation. Before we talk about social participation, I think we all need to understand the devastating impact of social isolation. Social isolation is a major public health issue due to its association with negative physical and mental outcomes, as well as poor quality of life and an increased risk of dementia. In fact, it's found that the social isolation was associated with a 50% increased risk of dementia. The key to alleviating social isolation is creating opportunities for accessible and affordable social activities that are fun and meaningful. Access for older adults to leisure and cultural activities, and opportunities for social and civic engagement with both peers and younger people are critical. Participating in social activities make people feel as if they matter to community, which provides a sense of meaning and belonging. Social activities can help relieve the perceived angst of social isolation. Again, my example of this is Pittsburgh, that encourages neighbors to get to know each other over coffee. So they incorporated and recruited local coffee shops to engage in this program. And what they did is they provided the coffee shops with a variety of two signs. One sign said, "Sorry, I can't talk, maybe another time." But the other sign said, "Join me, I'm open for conversations." And when people came into the coffee shop and sat down, they encouraged them to pick the sign that they felt best that day. And so that when other people came in and saw someone who had a sign that encouraged them to sit down and talk, they would do it. As a way to create those connections within a community coffee shop that maybe wouldn't have been made otherwise. As a natural introvert, that scares the bejesus out of me. But I love the fact that they did it and it was successful. The next domain is respect and social inclusion. We all want to feel valued. And when respect and social inclusion is strong in a community, everyone in that community feels valued. Intergenerational gatherings might enhance young and old learning from each other. Programs to promote ethnic and cultural diversity, as well as multi-generational interaction and dialogue exist. My example for this is Columbus, Ohio. They created the Age-Friendly Innovation Center near the campus of Ohio State University as the first university-based center to embrace the full spectrum of needs, opportunities, and complex issues related to age-friendly communities. Julie, here it is. You asked me for this. With unfortunately fewer people studying gerontology and the need to encourage more people to study gerontology, did I get that right? Perfect. Thank you. Many know very little about the aging process or careers in aging. So the Age-Friendly Innovation Center created the Age-Friendly Innovation Scholars Program, which brings together Ohio State students from several different disciplines to learn about aging and ageism through a 4-month program. Recent scholars have focused on the challenges older residents face with mobility and transportation. The students visited with advocacy organizations and service providers and attended city council sessions. The students regularly met to discuss from the perspective of their respective fields of study what they learned. And I love the fact that when you bring students from a variety of different disciplines together, they bring a variety of different knowledge and experience to help promote the issue of how do we do better at aging in place. Next is civic engagement and employment, encouraging people to be actively involved in community life. This includes both paid work and volunteer opportunities. There's many reasons why people might choose to work as they age. Unfortunately, for some, there's a financial requirement that they continue to work as they get older. But for some, they simply choose to. I give the example of my father-in-law. He was in Ohio. He was a superintendent of schools, and he retired about 10 years ago and made a very big deal about his retirement. And there were parties, and there was a bucket list all the stuff that he was going to do in his retirement and how excited he was. And 6 weeks later, he called us and said, I got a new job. He didn't want it. Once he got it, he decided he didn't want it. He missed working with the students, and so he got a job working with students in Kent State. Probably did that for 5 or 7 years, and then decided for real that he was ready to retire. But he made that choice. But he still had that ability to engage as well. This can also be about volunteer opportunities. I'm particularly proud at AARP. Like I said, we work with about 190 volunteers statewide with a variety of roles, from advocacy to programming, to community involvement work, of giving them an opportunity to find benefit in their lives from helping others. Again, my boss is in the room, so I'll say this. I know some of my volunteers work harder than I do at AARP. You know, they are so dedicated to it. My example on this one is, again, Carlsbad, New Mexico. They created an Age-Friendly Communities Council, which hosted job fairs specifically for older workers that helped connect businesses who are looking for folks with experience, more so than entry-level work, with older workers specifically. Communications and information. This means sharing community information through a variety of ways, making sure to accommodate those who are not tech savvy and for whom English is a second language. While we like to make to look accommodations for those who aren't technologically savvy, we don't write them off completely. In fact, we look for ways to help teach people so that they can access the technology that helps them connect with their community, family, and friends. The pandemic taught us that people need the access, not only access to reliable, affordable, high-speed internet, they need the skills to use it for things like telehealth, online shopping, remote work, and social connections. This is something AARP has worked quite a bit on here in Nebraska, is promoting digital literacy and digital access skills. As I look to communications information, again, I go to Portland, Maine, which created an age-friendly business designation where businesses had a checklist to meet, including things like accessibility. If they met the checklist of requirements, they could then advertise themselves to the community as an age-friendly business. This information was shared with older residents of Portland and empowered them with the knowledge about places that could meet their needs. The last domain is community and health and community services. This includes access to things like home care services, health clinics, and programs that support wellness and active aging. Our Vital Voices survey found that the biggest concerns from our older Nebraskans about health were related to staying mentally sharp. It's a very big one. Anytime that we do something on staying sharp from a programmatic health, standpoint of brain health, that really brings out people. It's something they're really focused on. Having adequate health insurance, being able to afford health care expenses and premiums, maintaining a strong and reliable Medicare program, and being able to afford prescription drugs. My example of age-friendly network work done here is Auburn Hills, Michigan, which created something called the Hop Up PT program. And that stood for Home-Based Older Persons Upstreaming Physical Therapy. Thank goodness they called it Hop Up, or what they called pre-injury physical therapy program. A physical therapist would become available to go to an older client's home and do a physical, environmental, and health assessment. Based on those evaluations, the therapist would design a specific program of exercise to promote balance and endurance, along with recommendations to improve home safety, nutrition, and overall healthy lifestyle. This is an effort to empower people to prevent falls and other injuries. The program is administered during 6 home visits and 3 telehealth visits over 7 months. The program has grown into an extensive research project utilizing many residents along with other seniors across the state. The next one is not one of the domains, but I think is increasingly important that we think about as we think about age-friendly communities, and that's disaster preparedness. You know, in Nebraska, we've certainly seen this over the last few weeks, the importance of this. Adults age 65 and older are a growing demographic of those who are often disproportionately impacted by severe weather or other natural disasters. Community planning plays a vital role in reducing the long-term risks of life and property from natural hazards such as hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires, and floods. We also need to make sure that we're providing family caregivers with the resources they need to, when they're doing disaster preparedness, to think about the person that they're giving caregiving for.
I'm curious how we can get our small local communities to get this designation. Like I live in Papillion, and I just think that's such a great community that could maybe qualify.
Yeah, so all it takes is there has to be an elected official who's the leader of the community that commits to it, and then there's usually a group, a nonprofit, there's somebody who is sort of assigned by that leader to run the process. So I'm always happy if there's either a mayor or a city council folks or even a nonprofit in the community that is interested in leading this effort to sit down and talk with them about the program itself and the process that we can go through to make that happen. But it takes a commitment that they're going to go through the process. I'll say for Lincoln, so grateful for Mayor Gaylord Baird's commitment to this. But this is something, Randy, you and I have talked about for many years to get to that point of getting the city's commitment. And again, so proud of the work that Lincoln is already doing in this area, and looking forward to hearing Randy tell us more about it. So again, if there's communities that you think might be interested, and there's folks that you think might be interested in leading this effort, I'm happy to have a conversation with them about the program itself.
Next question.
So, Todd, there's a number of people that are here from different institutions across the U.S. Are there opportunities for research working with AARP through their state office? What would be the best way for them to make contact with someone?
Yeah, so AARP has an equivalent of me and a state office in all 50 states, and also the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, and Virgin Islands. And I'm still trying to figure out how I get this job in the Virgin Islands. Love Nebraska, but I think that would be a difficult one to pass up. So, and they're all doing the equivalent of this work in the way that it makes sense in their states and their communities across the country. So, would encourage you that if you're from a different state and you're interested in this age-friendly work, that you reach out to your local AARP office and find out the things that they're doing. One of the things I love about AARP is as an organization, we very much embrace the issue of sharing. And downright stealing someone else's great idea is strongly encouraged at AARP. So we do a very good job of connecting with each other, hearing about the things that other folks are doing, and implementing them in a way that makes sense in our own states.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.